Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With your 2026 WWE Backlash, not so instant analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back. Once again, we are here a bit removed from the conclusion of WWE Backlash, as the Silver King had a prior engagement Saturday night, but nonetheless, we are here to break down everything that happened on WWE's first premium live event coming out of WrestleMania. Vintage Chris Vanini will be along for the ride momentarily. Before we get to him, allow the Silver King off the top to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King. For Vintage, head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. We will be referencing many of those for our WWE Backlash Second Look, our normal WWE episode this coming Tuesday. You also get to vote in pre- and post-show polls, which we will be referencing later in this edition of the podcast. All of that is on Twitter and Blue Sky. On YouTube, when you listen over there, you can, of course, get the episodes. You can also watch full-length video interviews and the link in our social media profiles that allows you to subscribe to the show. You can join our exclusive Slack channel. You can shop at WWE Shop. You can do a variety of things. You can find all of it on social media at Getting Overcast. Vintage, normally at this part of the show, we would be an instant analysis. It'd be later at night. We'd be cracking open a cold one. Silver King right now just came off of a party the night before. I had plenty of cold ones there. I just have a really nice Owala bottle of water here. What about you over there?
I've got a Gatorade. It's morning-ish. We're recording this.
Yeah.
I'm not a morning mimosa drink type of person.
And even if you were, it wouldn't make a noise, and that's not good audio anyway. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, Silver King, I'm not hungover or anything like that, which is great. It tells me that I still got it a little bit. But yeah, wasn't planning to have another drink at 10 a.m. or whatever time we are taping this. I'm going to tell you something quickly before we get into the show, Vintage. I don't know the last time you have been to an event involving like kids who are like 12, 13 years old. I was at a bar mitzvah last night. Shit has changed over the last couple of decades. Like the way everything went down from a party standpoint, how they basically have to constantly hand out swag to the kids to keep them off their phones. I remember when I went to events like this when I was growing up, I was in a full suit, tie, whole 9 yards, dress shoes. These kids were in Nike Dunks. They were all wearing the same pair of Nike Dunks, white and black somehow. Apparently, this is a thing that's going around. I was just out of my element, and I know stuff changes, but I don't know. I figured you go to a wedding, you go to a special event, you wear a suit and tie. Like, I don't know. I was very surprised.
Well, that's interesting because it's like a kid's event, like you said. Like I've been at weddings with a kid here or there.
A younger kid, yeah, under a teenage year, like 8, 9 years old. You're wearing sneakers, fine. I'm not, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and like I've been to, I went to bar mitzvahs growing up. So the fact that they have to keep doing the swag to get them off their phones is a fascinating and something that makes complete sense. You basically need Danhausen out there every 30 minutes to get them paying attention again.
No joke. It was like they're giving away, crappy sunglasses and then t-shirts and then sweaters at one point. And I'm like, I had to pull like my friend's wife aside. I'm like, what is going on here? They're like, no, this is what they have to do. Now, there's like two choices. You either have to hire someone that puts all the phones in bags and then the kids feel like something's taken away from them, or you have to do something like that to keep their attention. It was, when I had bar mitzvahs, I danced with girls. Like we tried to hook up like that. That was like the idea. These kids were just like dancing in like a group and getting shit. And I was like, this is not what it used to be. And again, I know that might be like old man yelling at a cloud thing, but I don't know. I was very surprised how much stuff has changed as someone, I guess, who's single without kids. So yeah, I wouldn't know.
Got to take the phones out of the schools, man.
Most likely need to do something like that. All right. We're not here to talk about that. Thanks everyone for indulging me. I had to get all of that off my chest. Vintage, let's just get into breaking down 2026 WWE Backlash. For anyone who might be a first-time listener, we go match by match, not based on the card, but order of importance the way we see it. We're going to break down what happened in the match. We'll review it, analyze it, we'll grade it, and then, of course, discuss what may be happening in that storyline, feud, or with those individual wrestlers going forward. Now, before we get to the main event of the show, I wanted to note the opening video package. I thought it was great visually, and Backlash beginning with a ton of pyro in the arena. It always helps make the show feel like a big deal. I hate when past PLEs open just like Raw or SmackDown with the arena walking entrances, and then you go to Michael Cole and he just says, all right, here's your first match. Like, that doesn't really do anything. I'm guessing this had more to do with it being on ESPN, or ESPN2 in this case, the first hour, than just WWE wanting to spend money on pyro. But for me, it fully ratchets up the energy beginning a show. And in terms of the set, it was kind of like a combination. Saturday night's main event with a PLE stage to a degree, the Titantron. It was decent enough for a B show. Interestingly, there was only one ring sponsor for the entire show. It was in the corners. The WWE logo was in the middle. There were not a lot of sponsors, ads, or anything around Backlash.
Yes, I like the presentation. I like the fast start we got to. It made it feel urgent, everything about the show. And yeah, it probably was the ESPN2 start where you're not going to do the typical WWE thing where it's, 9 minutes into the show before, stuff's happening. So I think that helped. So I did like that.
For sure. Now, I should mention this because I didn't already, and that's my fault. Silver King and Vintage, we are taping this show differently than we normally do. The system that we utilize was completely down. So if we sound slightly different, that is the reason. But hopefully this records well for all of you. All right, let's get to WWE Backlash. Match by match. World Heavyweight Championship was the main event. Roman Reigns against Jacob Fatu. And something else I forgot to mention, I know this is now 3 times as I'm getting into the show. We also break down everything that happened on the Go Home SmackDown. When applicable, and unfortunately, when it comes to Backlash, it was applicable in 3 different matches. So let's go ahead and get to that. On SmackDown, there was an excellent video package for this match, and it opened the Go Home show. Fatu then entered for a promo segment. He got booed for saying Reigns was born with opportunity, and everyone has been trying to protect him since, while Fatu was born in doubt. The Usos interrupted with a new graphics package. Jimmy saying a part of him is rooting for Jacob while another part is trying to protect him. They said Fatu hasn't considered what happens if he loses. Jay claimed that Roman is going to beat that ass and break him down emotionally and physically in front of his family, and Jay knows what that's like from experience. I like that. Then they said there would be nothing left for him and his family to do but acknowledge Reigns. Jacob said he's not going to lose because he can't afford to lose. He reminded Jay that he never beat Roman, which is precisely what Jay had said moments prior. Fatu said the only thing his family will see him do is become the new world champion because he's willing to put everything on the line in a way that Reigns is not. Jacob then warned the Usos not to interfere or he'd burn the whole G-damn family tree down. Royce Keys then dapped up Fatu backstage, reminding him that he's a werewolf who has never been afraid of any man. Jacob appreciated the love. Jay later told Royce to stay out of family business if he knew what was good for him. So this ebbed and flowed as a segment to open SmackDown. There were some significant peaks, but a few valleys too. The Usos offering the perspective that they are not inherently against Jacob, but they're scarred from experience and, trying to protect him from Roman. That was kind of appropriate. And Fatu was completely zoned in, focused on getting the job done. I'm not sure it was that necessary as a go-home segment because technically nothing new was covered, but you could feel the passion and energy emanating from all 3 of them. And it certainly did not cool off the main event. It did give it maybe an extra shot of juice going into the show, especially from Jacob's side. And it seems like there may be something here with Fatu and Keys operating together on the back end, maybe a tag team run in the future. Royce being involved with the bloodline, that is a net positive no matter what. That's quite an elevation for a brand new guy who really did not seem to have that much direction.
Yes, and I think my thought on the entire build to Jacob Roman was how much Jacob they gave you, because this was 3 weeks after WrestleMania, and Jacob has been on, I think, every single Raw and SmackDown.
Every show.
And he's on SportsCenter, and he's on Get Up.
And he main evented 5 of the 6. This is the only show he did not main event.
They really, really gave you a lot of Jacob Fatu, both, I think, to see what the reaction is and both to see if he can handle it. And I think he handled it really well. I wasn't sure at the beginning. Like, I think I said coming out of Mania was like, what is the ceiling on Jacob Fatu? I'm not sure. but I think he, to this point, passed the build to this in flying colors. He was given a lot, and he did a good job with it all.
It seems like the ceiling might be the roof for him, which is what I had said when he first showed up in WWE. The question always was, will they go with him? Will they actually try? And will they see him as someone that they can get behind in a world title program? We saw them get behind him as a world title challenger, the B-side here. And coming out of Backlash, I think we have the answer for the way WWE sees Jacob going forward, but let's get to that right now. So Fatu entered the arena wearing a non-colored version of the Ula Fala, which was interesting. He then entered for the match in a flower lei of some kind, wearing new gear that did have some Umaga vibes. He used the Tongan death grip early, so Roman focused on attacking the hand and arm to weaken it. There were dual chants early. They progressively focused more on OTC as Fatu worked the heel side, particularly given the way he was addressing the crowd, yelling at them. Reigns' first Superman punch resulted in a 1 count. Fatu respawned demonically and got chance. Jacob delivered 10 headbutts in the corner and a huge hip attack. Roman countered a second attempt with the grip, hitting a Superman punch for a 2 count. Reigns followed with a drive-by, only to eat a Tongan death grip and powerbomb through the announce table. Fatu tried another hip attack, but Reigns countered again, this time with a spear for a false finish and loud OTC chants. Jacob countered in kind, turning a spear into a pop-up Samoan drop with a mighty moonsault chaser for a perfect 2.9 false finish because, of course, it's Roman Reigns kicking out. Fatu came back with 3 falling headbutts and a crotch chop, but Reigns blocked a swanton bomb with his knees. They looked like a couple of monsters, exchanging huge haymakers until Reigns fell into the corner and ate 2 hip attacks, I believe it was. Fatu then locked in the Tongan death grip again. Reigns faded. He sold it incredibly well. The referee did the arm drop gimmick, kind of.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll talk about that. With Roman limp on the first, but revived on the second, he ran Fatu into the referee, hitting 2 Superman punches, a pop-up Superman punch, and a spear for a 2.999 false finish. Jacob respawned with another death grip, Roman ripping off a turnbuckle pad to save himself. He was trying to keep himself in the corner and, change the grip. Instead, the pad flies off. He notices this, runs Fatu headfirst into it, hits a spear, retains the title, all by the skin of his teeth. It looked like he was about to get put out. Jacob was back to his feet before Roman, diving on him with the death grip, choking him out on the canvas before hitting the referee with a pop-up Samoan drop. He put the death grip back on Roman after, ultimately super kicking an agent, throwing Adam Pearce fully out of the ring, then locking the death grip back in. Reigns is foaming at the mouth, saliva everywhere. Fatu is looking catatonic with rage. Jacob was separated, but ultimately ran back into the ring and locked the death grip in a 4th time in the post-match, so 8 times in the match. Michael Cole sold the heel turn, calling him unhinged, demanding police arrest him. That's always something that works. And Jacob held up the title. When he did, he was roundly booed as a heel, which, yes, I believe I had that.
Sort of.
Congratulations to me.
Okay, so Fatu was booked incredibly strong in defeat here, which is exactly what needed to happen because there was no way Reigns was dropping the title a month after winning it. We all knew this going in. I saw a lot of consternation about the finish, Roman cheating to win, just like he used to. I didn't see it that way. In the past, he had constant family interference and an ever-growing faction, people spawning up to interfere. Reigns was out there Saturday on his own, using whatever he possibly could grasp, literally, to save himself from the death grip and survive his cousin's onslaught. This was a desperate guy trying to avoid defeat, backed up against the wall, not so much a heel purposefully planning to cheat his way into retaining the title. To me, that's important nuance. And such tactics were established as okay for a face to do, literally in his prior match against CM Punk. And this especially hit for me because the Usos have been a huge part of this storyline, yet we did not see them once the entire night. Jacob warned them on Friday, and they did not show up on Saturday. The concept and positioning was further strengthened by how Roman never came close to getting to his feet after the match, whereas Jacob was quickly up, losing his mind, and choking the crap out of him with the death grip, even taking out the referee, which was justified because of the way the finish went down. As far as I'm concerned, this match was an absolute banger, and I believe it is being massively underrated from what I've seen already. The crowd was transfixed from the opening bell. Jacob had his best match in WWE. Roman was not only excellent bell to bell, but sold his ass off and took all of the huge bumps outside and inside the ring. He bumped for Jacob, not the other way around. I also had no issue with the death grip not ending the match, even though it was used 4 times. The first time was extremely brief. The second was outside the ring to completion. Hey now. The third came a second away from ending Reigns. It almost did beat him. And the fourth only got thwarted because of the turnbuckle. The point was that Roman panicked every time it got locked in because he knew what it could do to him. If there's anyone who has experience knowing how to avoid, falling to the move and how important it is to not get put down immediately given his stature, it should be Roman. If it was Cody doing all of this, I would have had a much bigger issue with it. I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a fantastic main event. It's an A. I'm back and forth between 4.25 stars and 4.5 stars. I'll decide finally on our second look on Tuesday. But right now, 4.5 stars A. This was great.
This was as much as you could put somebody over in defeat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really. Like, from what you said, Jacob controlling the match, Roman taking all the big bumps, Jacob standing tall at the end. It was a lot. It was better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it'd be solid, but I thought it'd be pretty hard to make it really, really good. And they did. And I love the finish. I thought it was incredibly creative. I also don't think it's cheating. That's not against the rules. It's like the referee usually it can be used as a distraction. Like the referee tries to put the turnbuckle back up, but that's not a disqualifying thing. It's pretty similar to throwing somebody into the stairs outside.
This is what I'll say generally. If you remove the turnbuckle pad in view of the referee and then immediately use it by putting an opponent's head into it, that can be a disqualification. The way it usually is gotten around is that the turnbuckle pad gets pulled off, the referee tries to fix it, is unable to. And then later in the match, it just happens to be exposed. The person uses it and wins. So you can really go on either way of it. The referee seeing Reigns do it, his eyes fully fixated on it, to me was a little bit like, oh, you're Roman Reigns. I'm not going to call you for disqualification on that type of deal. But
it's like what you said. It wasn't Roman by himself actively untying it and then grabbing Jacob to throw him.
It was happenstance.
He was just grabbing onto something.
Right.
And it pulled off. I think the referee saw that as an accidental tearing off of the thing, which I think it kind of was. And then he obviously purposely throws him into it.
I buy that.
I didn't look at it as cheating. I looked at it as kind of heel-ish, but it's totally different than a low blow and the ref's not looking. Yeah. Solo Sikoa coming in with a Samoan spike on you or something like that. So it was as desperate as Roman has maybe ever looked in a win in which he doesn't have outside help. So I thought it was a very creative and good finish, and credit to everybody involved in that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I believe the spot at WrestleMania with the steel steps, which I think you just referenced, was more cheating than this.
Yeah. When he picked up the stairs and just hit Punk with it, and we're all like, "Wait a minute, that's a disqualification."
This is more equivalent to running someone into the steel steps with an Irish whip than it is anything else. But again, because it's in the ring and the way it happened, and the referee had clear view of it, I would have loved for the referee to have been tripped and fallen and not seen it. That maybe would have made it a little bit easier, but Jacob needed a reason to go after the referee, and he certainly saw him as not doing his job in that moment, allowing that to happen. What happens after this match is anyone's guess, and I got to tell you, it's pretty exciting, right? Because, first of all, before I even get to that, a moment ago, you disagreed wholeheartedly, at least, with the premise that Jacob Fatu is a heel.
No, I disagreed with you. We talked about this 2 weeks ago when he first used the Tongan death grip, and you said that was a heel turn, and you got a lot of blowback on it. And I said at the time it kind of seemed like it, but then in the ensuing weeks it didn't seem like it, and Jacob seemed like a face again. This after the match, this is a heel turn.
Yeah, for me it was, number one, you're using the Tongan death grip. Number two, you're using it on your cousin who's a babyface. Number three, you're unapologetic for doing so, and you believe you're completely in the right. And sure, maybe he wasn't a full heel when he first utilized the move. That's because people didn't necessarily, in my opinion, understand what the Tongan death grip is, why you wouldn't use it. They did a great job over the ensuing couple of shows explaining that it's a devastating move. And then Reigns on the contract signing segment, I believe was the first time he said something along the lines of like, that's a last resort. We all wrestle and fight each other because that's what we do, but we never do something like that. You crossed a line. That then allowed him using it in this match to be a little heelish, but then in the post-match, the way he attacked Reigns, I mean, to me, there was no doubt. So just because Silver King had the foresight, and I am, operating at a much higher level of professional wrestling IQ than everyone else watching, especially those who followed us on social media. I'm being sarcastic. Please don't think I'm egotistical like this. But just because I had it ahead of time doesn't mean I didn't have it, is what I'm trying to say.
So on the tongue and death grip part, like WWE is trying to sell it as a devastating move. I don't know if it's working.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not getting the reactions that I think they want, partially because he's using it so many times.
That's the issue.
Like you said, he used it over and over in the match, and he used it before the match, used it after the match. It's like, I get it, but now it suddenly doesn't feel like special or dangerous because it's been used so many times.
No, that's precisely the issue. If you are using it, in theory, you lock it in, the person's out, you win. You're done.
Yeah, that's what it should be. And that's what Bray Wyatt, the Fiend's mandible claw was. Nobody ever got out of it.
Seth Rollins did eventually.
Rarely. Like, it was rare.
Down the line, people did after it was established. That's part of the problem is he's debuting the move against his cousin. Now, if he did that against Roman, right? And then he fought Jimmy and he put it in Jimmy and he knocked him out immediately. And then he did the same thing with Tala Tonga and he took him out immediately. Then you're saying, oh, okay, in order to survive this, you got to be like a super strong dude, which Reigns is. But they didn't do a great job, to your point, fully establishing this as this ends most matches. Like 95 to 98% of the time, this is all Jacob Fatu needs to do. Now, because he used it
because they debuted it against Roman, so it had no.
But the first time they debuted against him, it was perfect. He foamed at the mouth. He got knocked out. It was.
Right, but I'm saying like he didn't win matches with it.
That's
he
what I'm
didn't then have matches and win with it and like establish that. It was like the match is 2 weeks later.
Yeah, they felt like they established it in that opening segment, which they didn't. They introduced it in that segment. And commentary, as I said back then, did a real shit job selling the Tongan Death Grip the first time it was utilized. And they shouldn't have been surprised. Michael Cole, especially, should not have been surprised. He's seen this move before. Other people have seen this move before. But the point is yes, he probably should have been winning matches with that. At least one, probably two. Then it sells further. Wow, this is just knocking people out. Jacob Fatu, he's going to win the World Heavyweight Championship. And then you get into the match and Reigns isn't resistant to it because we talked about him panicking every single time it was locked in. And then one time it did get fully locked in and he went through the table. But now wow, Roman was really lucky. He got out of there with the skin of his teeth. Instead, we're looking at it as, oh yeah, you can get away from this move. And it shouldn't be like that. Now, moving forward, I will not be surprised if Jacob wins the title in Italy and they run a rubber match at SummerSlam with Reigns getting it back then. However, Roman said after the match that Jacob never should have been let into the company and that it was his last night in WWE. This parallels what Reigns said about welcoming Fatu into the company the first time, and it plays into his positioning for WrestleMania, where he kept saying he gave the stamp of approval to allow CM Punk back. So I like how that thread is being continued, where Roman wields all this power behind the scenes when it comes to the roster, and we just don't get to see it on television. As we discussed before, Fatu does now have a chance to become that anti-authority figure that we were pontificating about. It might be as a heel side at first, but that's super easy to turn babyface on a dime whenever the time is right. And there are so many directions they can go from here. Fatu can win in Italy, and the rubber match is like tribal combat at SummerSlam. Reigns can get him, quote, fired on Monday Night Raw, with Fatu getting 6 weeks off, surprising in July, and building to either tribal combat or no holds barred at SummerSlam. That's a little risky because he's red hot right now, and you don't want to cool him off over 6 weeks. Though, with this audience, if you bring him back, they're going to go crazy for him. You could even do a title versus contract match with Roman wanting him out of the company and Jacob willing to put it all on the line for the title. if they play their cards right, WWE could legit make a massive star out of Fatu through this storyline with his cousin, even if Reigns wins the title back at some point going into a WrestleMania 43. But one way or another, Jacob is going to have to win this title in the next couple of months. Otherwise, I don't know where this is going.
Here's what I would do. He doesn't win it at Clash in Italy or whatever. Roman cheats again. The Usos are involved of some kind to the point where Jacob is kind of turned face again. And then Jacob wins at SummerSlam.
Is it a double turn? The bloodline goes heel?
Yes. Now, people are going to cheer Roman because he's Roman, but you do that. You try to really establish Fatu as having gotten screwed over a bunch of times so the people are on his side. You go into SummerSlam. He fights everybody off. He wins. Roman takes a break, and Jacob's your new champion. I think that works on the calendar because I don't think Jacob winning the title as a heel is quite going to like hit the way you want it to. I think it would make it'd make more sense as a babyface. Even when he does the heel stuff, people want to cheer him. Like he's still very much, even when the first heel turn or whatever. So
you're waiting.
I think
you're kind of wading into dangerous territory, though, if you flip Bloodline heel again, because no one wants what we got at the end of that run. Because don't forget, they extended it for a year. Like Reigns' title defenses were going relatively well for most of his reign, and then they extended it for a year, and every single match finish was the Usos cheating, Solo Sikoa cheating, someone debuting. Like it was one thing after another, and it really got long in the tooth. And if they put them back heel again, that's what every finish is going to be.
But there's only a couple of months left until SummerSlam. Like it's what?
Yeah,
August.
But what do you do after? What do you do after SummerSlam? So Reigns goes away, right? He leaves, and he comes back as a heel again. And now the Usos are heels.
Oh, he'll come back as a face because people are going to like him because that's what always
so
happens.
It's a temporary.
When he came back after WrestleMania 40, he was a face, even though he hadn't done anything.
So it's a temporary.
People started to respect him. Yeah.
Okay.
But like it doesn't have to be like heel, like they're driving an ambulance into a truck to kill him. It's just they keep cheating and people are getting kind of tired that Jacob keeps getting screwed. And so like if you're going to extend, like you said, if you're going to keep doing Roman Jacob, like you said, it feels like Jacob needs to win it.
So you're talking so 3-match series happens again at Italy, maybe with some type of stipulation. Let's say no,
or maybe not Italy because we're probably going to get Cody Gunther there. So like somewhere, yeah.
Well, no, I mean those tickets are going to be really expensive, and he's booked for the show, so he's going to be on that show. He's going to be defending the title. So what I'm saying,
because he's not doing Night of Champions,
right? Because he's not doing Night of Champions. So what I'm saying is, so you do no holds barred, let's say. That allows Usos interference and it's not illegal. So you kind of give them an air of whatever. They're ringside. Jacob attacks them, so they attack him back. You can do something like that. So Roman retains again. And Jacob gets fired. Maybe that's even a stipulation where he loses his contract or whatever the case might be. Comes back in 6 weeks. They build for the third match at SummerSlam. Tribal combat, let's say. Jacob wins the title. Lays out Roman Reigns completely. Roman's off for a few months. Jacob's the champion. That's what you're saying, basically.
Yeah, I can't see dropping the title to Jacob, then winning it back at SummerSlam because I assume Roman, he said he's going to not do the part-time thing over the summer. I imagine he's going to be off during the fall because I don't imagine Roman's going to be full-time for a full year.
No,
so I don't see Roman coming out of SummerSlam as champion really making as much sense.
No, I agree. I do agree with that because he can, and this is what I kept saying last year about Cody Rhodes, and for some reason WWE just couldn't figure this out and didn't listen. Cody should have lost the title to Drew McIntyre at WrestlePalooza or on TV shortly thereafter. Give Cody a break with the title, even if he's still on TV, goes back into chase mode. Then when he wins it back, it's special again, and he can win it at the Royal Rumble and take it into WrestleMania just like you always want. Roman Reigns can lose the title at SummerSlam, go off for 4 months, and win the title back before WrestleMania. If you want to do Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, which I really hope they say for 44, but if you want to do it at 43, you can still do it and give someone else an opportunity. You don't need Reigns to be an absentee champion.
Yep.
That's the most important thing. Chris, I'm going to give you the option here. I rarely do this. Silver King books the show in totality. Should we go Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, or Io Sky and Asuka next?
Let's go Io Asuka.
Good. That's the right decision. All right, Io Sky against Asuka. This was Silver King's main event and the co-main of the show. Michael Cole got his Triple Tails reference in during Io's entrance. Asuka looked incredible, both with her entrance getup and her gear. Really unique first-time look in WWE. There were 2 sets of loud, "We want Kyrie" chants at the match open. They only returned 1 time during the match briefly afterward. I respected the way the crowd handled that. They made their voice heard at the beginning, and they really just let them wrestle, and they enjoyed the match for the duration. Asuka literally kicked the shit out of Io, only stopped by a counter roll through double stomp. She followed with a perfect missile dropkick. Io did her emote bullet train attack. Asuka answered with a bevy of strong style Sykes and a shining wizard, only to get caught with a mule kick. When Sky hit a German suplex bridge, Asuka converted her kick out into a Kimura lock that Cole incorrectly called an Asuka lock with an armbar. Io quickly escaped an ensuing Asuka lock attempt with a stunner, only to get locked in an armbar that Io deftly countered back into an Asuka lock. Another call commentary completely missed. She used that move for a reason. Asuka perfectly took a Hurricanrana before immediately transitioning into a sunset flip pinning combination for a false finish. Asuka prevented a tope suicida with a forearm, but on the announce table, Io blocked her mist by opening a laptop as a shield in front of her face. Genius. Io then tripped Asuka on the table, splashed her off of it, adding a springboard moonsault and her emote. Asuka was supposed to catch over the moonsault in a triangle. They were slightly out of position, had to move into it. Sky got transitioned into an Asuka lock and looked to be knocked out as the referee shook her hand to no response, but Io moved over into a pin attempt before he could call the match to escape. They smacked the shit out of each other and then exchanged German suplexes, with Io landing another bullet train attack. She followed with over the moonsault for the flat 1-2-3 to prevail in just over 18 minutes. Io bowed to show respect after the bell. Asuka cried, hugged her tight, kissed her multiple times, ultimately smiling as Io said a bunch of emotional stuff to her that, of course, we didn't hear. Asuka also waved to the fans briefly, and they mostly walked out together, which was a bit confusing, and we will cover the post-match in a moment. Simply tremendous stuff here, bell to bell. The pacing was top tier. You never had time to catch your breath. This was an absolute, unabashed
Banger.
And that's really a credit to Asuka, who is 44, still being able to keep up with the best women's wrestler in the world. Nothing was overthought. There was a consistent level of intensity throughout. It did.
Wait. She's 44?
She's 44 years old.
I just looked this up. I had no idea.
It did
That's
feel
crazy.
The match did feel a tad short, given what they were trying to accomplish, especially since it was clearly the feud ender, possibly the last time 2 of the best in the world will ever fight one another. I wanted that finish to just be extended for another 2 or 3 minutes. If it had 5 or 7 more minutes, it would have been an epic. This was still a firm A. I found few faults in it. 4.5 stars.
Terrific match, as you knew it would be.
Mm-hmm.
We felt like they would get time to go, and they did, and they delivered. And it's why we wanted this on WrestleMania. It's why we wanted more of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad they gave it to them. I know we came coming in. You wanted them to get 25 minutes.
20 to 25.
No chance.
20 to 25.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
And then you said, okay, maybe like 20. It ended up, I don't know what your number was.
1807.
Wikipedia said 1830. So somewhere around there. So not quite 20, but like you said, could have maybe made that end segment a little bit longer.
Just a couple more minutes. Just a couple more. 2 to 3 more minutes. A kick out. One more kick out. Let Asuka kick out of over the moonsault, and Io has to hit it again, or uses one of Asuka's moves. Like just one more piece, and you're talking an A+ match. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but other than that, terrific, awesome. It's why they're 2 of the best. And I didn't know until this moment that Asuka's 44 years old. That's amazing.
And that's the point. Like, you would never think it watching her wrestle. And it's 44 also, nonstop wrestling. She hasn't taken a break. She's never been off. She's, outside of an injury or something like that, she has never taken 2 years off of the sport and come back. She's a mother. She has a lot of businesses in Japan. No time off. Just kept wrestling, especially in WWE. Now, as far as the post-match, look, left a ton out there for interpretation. Is Asuka moving to SmackDown? So that was a show of respect and kayfabe and goodbye for them in reality, no longer spending as much time together on the road. Was it an emotionally cathartic moment with Asuka showing her pride in Io, both expressing themselves due to Kairi Sane no longer being there? Did Asuka just retire in front of us out of nowhere? Is she simply taking an extended break and going back to Japan for a bit? As I mentioned, She has businesses. I believe she's trying to build an arcade. She has a kid over there. Shinsuke Nakamura, Bayley, Charlotte Flair, and Io all posted about her after the show. Io's was the only one that included words. She said it was the final chapter of their story. She thanked Asuka, and she said that she loved her. And there was a picture of them holding Kairi's gear together. If I had to guess, and I am purely guessing, I don't believe this was a full retirement. And I don't even believe it's a WWE exit either. I say that because everyone would be expressing themselves more if that was the case. And maybe that'll come. We're taping this early on Sunday. WWE also would have likely been a little bit more demonstrative in the moment. My guess is that Asuka is done as a full-time wrestler, but she will make one-off appearances for matches and feuds over the next couple of years before ultimately having a retirement match, like a Trish Stratus or a Brock Lesnar type of situation. If the men can do it, Asuka should be allowed to do it. Royal Rumble appearance, nice surprise, builds a WrestleMania feud, takes a break the rest of the year, something like that. Maybe if WWE does Evolution, she has a match on that card. Like, that's the way they could use Asuka, similarly to how they used Miko Satomura over in NXT UK for a period of time. Now, she was champion. I don't expect Asuka, of course, to do that, but I think you get what I'm saying. Now, I can't say any of this for sure, of course, but I just cannot imagine her going to another company in the United States, and her relationship with promotions in Japan is complicated. Though, of course, if she does move back there, maybe she comes up with some type of deal. Asuka is far too much of a legend for this to just be her last WWE match, and that's it, unless that's her wish, and she went out unexpectedly like Brock Lesnar did. But again, Lesnar was demonstrative. He left his stuff in the ring. He waved to fans. He cried. Asuka did that, but it was all in the context of Io. And that's even more reason, by the way, if this was her last match or her last match as a full-timer, that Kairi should have been involved here. It would be tough to stomach for this to be her last match, getting 18 minutes on Backlash with no preparation, especially when a retirement easily could have been baked into this feud. Io saying, Asuka-san, I can't have you in this company anymore. You're ruining my life. I need to put your career on the line. I'll do whatever, career versus career, whatever the case might be. Or, Chris, this is all a facade, and they're just building to a Gunther match at SummerSlam. Who knows?
Yeah. Also, Asuka posted before the match just a picture of herself and playing Frank Sinatra's My Way. Like, there was a lot of stuff involved that felt like a farewell. And I don't know. We don't know the full why. And just at the moment, it's hard to predict. My guess is she's taking a break, doesn't know when she'll come back. There's part of me that wonders also, like, the Kairi release, of all the releases that they did.
Yeah.
Kairi's was very strange. It was weird. It didn't really make sense. Is it possible, like, it was we're going to get rid of Kairi and Asuka, and we'll play it out a little bit out until Backlash and space it out a little bit or do something like that, or Asuka pay cut or something. I don't know. I've
seen people speculate about that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like, the person in this company outside of Io Sky who loves Asuka more than anything else is Paul Levesque. And I'm not saying that he hasn't cut people that he likes, Aleister Black, obviously, but we don't necessarily know how close their relationship was in NXT, even though Black was pushed hard when he was part of that company. But Triple H loves Asuka. I mean,
yeah, but
he loves her. And he ultimately was the guy making many of these decisions, maybe not the pay cut part of it, but not everything. Like, I've seen this on social media ever since this shit was reported, and it was reported incorrectly. There were myriad things that happened on this Backlash that were simply reported wrong. And that's not to mention the pay cut thing and the release stuff. There's been so much misinformation over the last 2 weeks when it involves WWE. What I'm saying is, now online sentiment, every time someone like gets an injury write-off or something like this happens, it's clearly WWE asked him to take a 50% pay cut. You can't default to that just because a dirt sheet person told you that it happened to a couple people. I mean,
what we like to say here is WWE does enough things wrong that you don't need to make up things to get upset at them about,
which happened multiple times around Backlash, and we will talk.
Correct. And I'm not, like, we don't know what the Asuka situation is, but is it possible that they wanted Asuka to take a pay cut. She didn't want to. She wants to leave. Maybe.
Plausible.
Again, I'm just the context of the Kyrie thing, this not happening at Mania, Kyrie getting released,
100%.
the pay cut reporting, it all makes it really hard to fully understand what happens. And so anything feels like a possibility. We don't know. My guess is Asuka's gone from WWE with a TBD time to make a return. Kind of like when Becky was Becky told WWE, like,
precisely.
I'm out, we'll come back to it. And they were like, well, let's just have you on contract anyway, just in case or whatever. But
which we just found out by the way.
Might be, yes. So it might be something like that. I don't think this is the end, but it's the end for the foreseeable future is my guess.
Yeah. And Becky obviously took time off from maternity, right? Asuka, it could be starting a business, just being back home for an extended period of time. I mean, she's been in the United States and I know she visits Japan, but if you've lived there most of your adult life and then you switch over to the United States and you have family and a child back there, I mean, I couldn't imagine I'm sure Japan is an incredible country, but I couldn't imagine just picking up and moving to Japan for 15 years and only visiting the US like a couple days or weeks here and there, over the course of that time. So it's very possible that, yeah, to your point, she's there for a year and a half. She's there for 6 months, 4 months. And then all of a sudden she shows back up when it makes sense and does short runs and people love her. And that's what her role in wrestling is until she ultimately has a retirement match. Because look, we need to have Asuka Julia in WWE at some point. We probably need to have Asuka Stephanie Vicaire. Like there are matches that she has not had that still exist out there that I think all of us would kill to see before she fully retires. So fingers crossed, it's not the end of Asuka in WWE. It's just a break. But either way, great match. Ultimately, it should have been at WrestleMania. It should have involved Kairi Sane. The way WrestleMania transpired, outside of Kairi not being involved, it was probably better off on this show. Just like the Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus steel cage match was better off at whatever show that was on as opposed to the premium live event it got pushed from. It shouldn't be that way. The big matches should get as much time as they need on the big shows. But I'd rather that we got this than a 9-minute facsimile version of it a month ago.
Of course. And we'll talk about match lengths maybe later too. But yes.
We absolutely will, yeah. Still 3 more matches in 4 segments for us to get to. But before we do that, Silver King does need to remind you that these days, whether it is Raw, SmackDown, or NXT, or premium live events like Backlash on Netflix, we are all in with NordVPN. It is easy to set up a drastically better viewing experience each night. You get the same high-quality streams, except they are commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like United Kingdom or France, open Netflix, and watch the program of your choice. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship and surveillance while protecting your private data. Plus, one account can be used on 10 different devices. To get the best discount, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan. And there's no risk, nor does a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save some money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. All right, let's go to the third huge match on this show, Seth Rollins against Braun Breaker. This opened the program with Rollins out first to get the crowd's blood pumping. Breaker came out in a Steiner-style jacket, and I'm simply confused as why this guy is only going with a goatee and not a full beard. The beard makes him look better, more modern. The goatee just makes him look like a Steiner. And if they are going to completely lean into that and he's going to change his name, okay. But if not, I don't get why this guy isn't rocking the full beard. It's very strange to me. Also, Braun badly needs to upgrade his gear. It looks stupid. Yeah. A red singlet with black words on it. Like, this is a potential soon-to-be main eventer. You got to get him better gear. Right.
It looks old and like almost like worn out.
It looks cheap too.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look good. Anyway, they were both shot out of a cannon at the bell. Breaker dominated for a while with a full release belly-to-belly suplex over the ropes, form tackle ringside, 4 German suplexes, a rope run lariat, Breakensteiner. Good storytelling by Cole recalling to their original NXT match. Rollins finally stops Breaker cold with a super kick counter to a runaround spear. Breaker caught a stomp attempt cold, moving into a military press lung blower. Rollins countered a spear with a super kick. completely botching a counter, and then ate a standing moonsault. Nice cover by commentary talking about Seth's lack of stamina given his time off and why it didn't seem to be executed well. Braun bounced off a buckle bomb with an explosive clothesline, then hit his leaping apron lariat over the announce table. Rollins caught him on the top rope with a superplex, but Breakker reversed the follow-up into his own Falcon Arrow on the landing. Terrific, unexpected spot. Braun landed a second and much cleaner Breakensteiner, but when he tried a third, Rollins shocked him by flipping out of it. He followed with a pedigree and a stomp, but was unable to cover immediately, and Paul Heyman was distracting anyway. Rollins grabbed a chair, prepared to fight off Austin Theory and Logan Paul, who he knew were coming. He had a stomp on Theory. He chased off Logan, but when he ran back into the ring, Breakker caught him with a short-range spear, thankfully for a false finish, because the impact was minimal. When Breakker tried another, Rollins caught him in the pedigree, just like he does with Roman Reigns all the time. But Breakker prevented a second rope stomp with an anti-air spear. He added a triple rope run spear for the relatively clean win, considering the people who only distracted, and there was match that transpired after that. This was exactly what it needed to be. Tremendous work from these guys. I was surprised that Rollins was not selling the ribs during the match or coming into the match, given the go-home on Raw was him taking multiple spears and having an injury to his midsection. It would have made his inability to find early success make a lot more sense, and it would have excused the loss even more than the interference already did. But these guys worked a super strong 21-plus minute match, and it was won by the guy who needed the elevation the most, especially since this is certainly not going to be their lone meeting. It would have been nice if it was squeaky clean, but when you have a guy in a heel faction and a huge star like Rollins, you cannot expect that. Outside of a clunky bit in the middle, they did a tremendous job telling the match story, taking the crowd for a ride, and they avoided the pitfalls of ending the match immediately after a distraction or interference. You guys know that is one of my biggest pet peeves. In this case, it extended 2 different times, and the match was better for it. If it was clean without any mistakes, you're talking about a full A match, maybe even close to 4.5. Instead, I'm closer to 4 stars A-, but still, as an opener, it was great. And if this had been the best match on the card, the show probably still would have been good. It ended up being the 3rd best match on the card.
Yeah, I like the fast start to the match, kind of what we said, like the fast start to the show. It continued with the match, and it just made the energy and urgency, everything feel really important. This was the longest match on the card, by the way. Somewhere around 21:45, which I didn't think at the time till looking back. It was good. The urgency, the intensity was there throughout the entire time. These guys barely ever took a break. And for a 21-minute match, that's a credit to both these guys. It did get clunky and botchy in the middle in a weird type of way. Like, Seth is 39 years old. He probably needs to stop wrestling like he's 29, and he doesn't all the time, but there were several spots in here that are difficult, that are, high difficulty, I guess. I would say.
Let me respond to that, because I saw, again, stupid, idiotic online sentiment. They're like,
I'm not talking about the Will Ospreay comparison.
Well, that's what I am, because they're like, oh, he's trying to do Ospreay. He tried to do Ospreay 3 different times. No, dude. Rollins did this shit in his career. Now, if you've only watched for
they're just moves too, by the way.
Yeah, but they're like flipping out of a Frankenstein or a Hurricanrana in the corner. Rollins has been doing that in WWE for 15 years. The difference is he's now, to your point, 39 years old with 2 surgically repaired knees, and he can't do it the same way. And the shoulder injury and all that. He can't do it the same way he used to, which, to your point, means he needs to start wrestling, and there is someone down in Orlando, Florida, who can take him through this. Do you remember the second half of Shawn Michaels' career? How he altered his style, and he wrestled differently. He didn't do as much flash. He was a little bit more demonstrative, but he was just as effective, and people loved him for it just the same. That is what Seth Rollins needs to become as a wrestler. He is in the twilight of his career. He may wrestle another 10 years, and I hope he does. Okay, maybe not 10. 5 or 6. And I hope he does. Okay. But he cannot, to your point, wrestle like he's 29 years old. That's one point I wanted to make. And the second was he was not doing Will Ospreay spots. He was doing Seth Rollins spots that Will Ospreay and AJ Styles and Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi and dozens of other wrestlers do on the regular. Stop comparing Rollins to Ospreay. I'm sorry he insulted him in 2019, guys, and you got so upset that you cry about it. Meanwhile, you have MJF out on social media saying the same type of AEW defense shit that Rollins used to say about WWE, and no one criticizes him for it. But Rollins questioned Ospreay's bank account, 7 years ago. So he's enemy number one, and we're still comparing them 7 years later. It's effing ridiculous. I'm sorry. Please go ahead. I had to rant on that.
Yeah, you get very upset about AEW Twitter sometimes. But
well,
I just
it's unfair comparisons, and just why shit on Rollins? They're just like, what are you doing?
They're moves that are unnecessary and can injure him, and that
Correct.
The diving, thing he did that he hurt his shoulder, that was a stupid thing to do. Like, he shouldn't have done that spot. And so just thinking like you don't need to do those high flying things anymore. I'm sure there's a part of Seth Rollins that still wants to feel like he's the best wrestler in the world, and he has to go out and show that every single
100%.
time. And he's the workhorse, and he was supposed to main event WrestleMania this year, and he got hurt, and there's a lot of frustration about that, surely. But and then the end of the match was like nonstop Frankensteiners and spears. I think Braun's last 3 move attempts were spears, either that were missed or reversed or hit. And it felt kind of a bit of a spammy finish at the end, but still really good match, correct winner, good urgency, intensity, got time, great opener.
I didn't mind that with the spear. It's his finisher. 3 Frankensteiners in one match.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to attempt, especially for 21 minutes. If it was a 40-minute match, okay. Like, sure, you're spacing it out. You're doing the move a couple times. He has other moves he's not using. He does a press power slam that's super impressive. He had extended his arsenal a bit in NXT. I don't know why he's being limited so much, but to your point, yeah, it was too much of the same move, both of those moves in succession at the end. The guy that Falcon Arrow counter is great. Like, Breakker needs to expand his repertoire. But again, similar to the Reigns Fatu match, this is most likely the first of multiple bouts between them, not just in the short term, but in the long term. I can understand them not wanting to do everything, but still wanting to do a, balls to the wall 20-minute match, because that's how hot the feud is. But yes, that's why it was imperfect. That's why I gave it an A- instead of an A. The clunkiness in the middle, some of the Rollins stuff, and the repetitiveness in the finish, but it was still extremely well wrestled. I mean, that was a lot of fun and a great opener. Now, as far as what's next for these guys, look, there's no reason, like I just said, to believe this feud is over. What would be nice is for them to involve the Street Profits, do a 6-man feud for a few weeks. Rollins obviously needs to make good with them. Something I missed discussing that interaction on Tuesday's show is that Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, they're rightly side-eyeing Seth, because Rollins never really turned face. He just got attacked and then came back against the heel. So he needs to win their trust. I'd like to see that develop over the next few weeks. You can run a 6-man at Saturday night's main event. You could possibly run it at Clash in Italy. That's how popular those guys are. And then you put them in King of the Ring. You reset the stage for SummerSlam. That's what I would do. Vintage, what do you think of that general plan?
I agree. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Okay, now there were 3 other segments on Backlash. 2 of them are matches, and normally we would prioritize those. But John Cena was at this show, and this segment was promoted with a graphic on SmackDown that literally called it history-making news. So it wasn't just his verbiage, it was how WWE was selling it. The assumption going in was that it was simply going to be him announcing details of Club WWE, just considering how hard he had been promoting it. It was not to be negative. It was just John Cena is the face of Club WWE. They didn't announce all the details at WrestleMania, so therefore it made a lot of sense that he would do it here. We also speculated he might announce a WrestleMania location. That was our thought coming into this segment. So Cena obviously received a tremendous ovation. He wondered out loud about the next phase of his career, and fans loudly, and I mean loudly, chanted one more match. Cena said he was proud of his final match and proud of that show in totality because it featured young talent, and Gunther had to earn his way into that spot. He shouted out Sol Ruca, Javon Evans, and Obafemi, the latter mentioned getting an insane reaction. I mean, insane. Cena shouted him out for kicking Brock Lesnar's ass at WrestleMania, got a pop. Then he announced the John Cena Classic, an entire card of present versus future superstars, with the winner receiving a brand new championship that it seems is being named after him, the John Cena Classic Championship. Not sure about that. He promised to be personally involved in making it special and told the fans that their voice will be louder than ever before because they will vote to crown the champion, even if it's someone who does not win their match but shows a lot of heart in competing. Cena then turned into LeBron James, saying this would not be an event that only happens for 1 year, but 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, however long. I say that because the explanation of this event was convoluted as hell, and it sounded like something that might not last, just like that team and their championship aspirations. I digress. Cena said that this was wholly his idea, and WWE has embraced it, allowing him to give it a shot. The most positive takeaway from this is that Cena did indeed announce something significant. I'm not sure I would call it history-making, but it could be considered groundbreaking, depending on the execution, and it was not as basic as a club WWE announcement, which is what we all feared going into the segment. And it is super smart to have an entire event based around Cena, integrating him fully into something that's unique. I'm presuming he's going to be at that show. He'll probably be picking the NXT superstars who compete, and that is going to add a lot of juice to something that otherwise might not be received well because of the way the NXT roster looks right now. So credit where it's due there. In terms of the concept, as I said, Vintage, to me, it's convoluted as hell. We're looking at a whole show of main roster versus developmental talent, not a tournament or a round robin or anything, because it's going to be multi-gender. And the winner of the night receives a championship, even if they don't actually win their match. So it's whoever performs the best on the show getting honored. This is still a competition. So how would you crown someone champion who lost the competition? Now, perhaps this would have been better described as an award or a trophy, because it does not sound like it's something that's going to be defended, but rather awarded. And had they done that, and he said the person will receive the John Cena Cup or something like that, my reaction to it would have been a little bit better. I don't like the idea of quote-unquote championships being added to WWE, and I say the exact same thing every year about the Owen Hart Cup in AEW. They do a tournament, a round robin, that one's a tournament. And they give championship belts at the end. They're just ceremonial. At first, they called them championships. They kind of went away from saying that because they're not defended. So I hope that's the same case here. They changed the terminology. I'm interested in this. You guys know I love NXT, and integrating NXT with the main roster is something I have been for years, but there is an inherent issue with this concept. I'll pause and let you get in first, and then I will share, Vintage, what that is.
So I thought this was mostly good, and I'm pretty sure that we on this show said they should do something like this. We said John Cena Classic. I don't remember if it was you or me, but I remember we talked about saying this would be a great annual event
100%.
called the John Cena Classic. Have NXT versus the main roster, and show off your young talent. And that's exactly what this is. And so when he announced it, I was like, oh, that's a great idea that we talked about. And I think you can do a lot of really fun things with that. That's great. That's awesome. Then the championship thing happened, and it's the only thing anybody's talking about.
Right.
I'm like, part of me is like, whatever about it. Part of me is like, I don't know. They have these giant Saudi Arabia belts and rings for King of the Ring that don't matter and whatnot. So maybe they're just creating more meaningless.
Oh, the Crown Jewel Championship. Yeah, Crown Jewel Championship.
Yeah, the Crown Jewel Championship. That's what that was. Sorry.
That's
you
cool.
have the Rock had the People's Championship that he made up for himself that he got from Muhammad Ali's widow. Like, maybe this whole thing's a gimmick. It's dumb. It's weird. I mostly think this is great. The idea of the event is awesome, and I'm glad they're doing it. I think it's going to be fun. Good for John Cena. Involve him. Like, great. That's great. The championship thing at the end is like just a little bit of like, it's kind of weird and dumb. Maybe we just don't do that. But overall, I think this is good.
Right. That's the convoluted part. But I'm almost positive the reason they're doing it is because when you run those shows, right, you really need to have your main roster talent go over your developmental talent. So they want to be able to award
I don't know. We just had Sol Ruka beat Bailey
singularly, and that is because Bailey is the most generous wrestler on the entire roster. Okay, Obafemi, they had a convolute.
Yeah, Cody
the
didn't.
finish
Cody
that.
didn't win that match.
Well, yeah, they convoluted the finish there, and then Javon Evans and Leon Slater lost the tag team match. I'm just saying, it's WWE. It's very rare that developmental talent will go over main roster talent. So my guess is they're introducing that, tenet to it to say, hey, if one of those developmental people really impress, it makes more sense for them to get the award for the show than Cody Rhodes, who doesn't.
Yeah, and you know what you treat it as? You treat it as like winning the Andre Battle Royal.
Yes,
like
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Every year, someone just it's not something you win or defend or this or that. It's just somebody gets the honor.
That's why I'm saying it should be a cup or an award, or it shouldn't be a title belt. Now, maybe it won't be. Maybe they'll get a ring. Maybe they'll get a plaque. I mean, we'll find out, obviously. But when they said championship, it's that singular word that convoluted the whole deal. But that wasn't even really my huge issue with this. The problem I foresee is that they're introducing this now after NXT has been stripped bare by Paul Levesque. He called up 11 superstars in 4 months. Yes, there is talent down there. It is almost entirely on the women's side. You have your Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame and Lola Vice and Kendall Gray and Ren Sinclair. I mean, there are so many women down there, Jada Parker, who have legitimate top tier potential. On the men's side, I mean, they literally are so barren that they just brought in 2 people from outside the company, one from England and one from Japan. They're the top 2 contenders for the NXT title, and neither of them have wrestled a match yet. Neither of them has really spoken outside of one tape promo and one screaming into the camera thing. So the type of people who would really benefit from this were on the matches this past year at John Cena's retirement match, or they're already on the main roster. Javon, Fatal Influence, Soul, etc. So I'm extremely curious to find out when this card happens, how it is structured, who winds up being involved, how the voting process is structured. I have a sneaky suspicion the voting will be exclusive to Club WWE members. This will be entirely dependent on execution of creative, A, and B, I do truly hope they rethink calling it a championship.
Yeah, my only issue is the championship thing. I'm sure this will be in the fall when football's going on, and it's always a low period for WWE. It's when they did it, it was December last year. Mm-hmm. So I imagine it'll be something around then, maybe one of the Saturday night's main events. And so you'll have time to build up those people. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, then they'll lose. Right. You don't have to have the people on that show be the same people who are getting called up 2 months later. It was fun. There have been times when WWE people would just go down to NXT and wrestle somebody on a one-off. And it just, I think it's a great idea. And it puts pressure on NXT to keep developing those people. And it puts pressure on those people to be good enough to get on this card. It's something more for them to strive to get onto, especially when something like, say, Stand and Deliver isn't on WrestleMania weekend anymore. So other than the weird belt, whatever it is, I think this is a great idea.
I'm with you on that. But to be fair, and I only say this because you've said it yourself, you don't have as much familiarity with the NXT roster, right?
Yes.
So I don't think you see the potential pitfalls that I'm talking about, especially from the men's side. That said, I feel like my breakdown of this has come off negative. So I just want to clarify. This is hugely positive. And to your point, it's exactly what we said we wanted after John Cena's last match in that show, where we said this was so good, so entertaining, so successful that WWE should do this annually. They are doing it annually. I just wanted to clarify that there's a lot of pitfalls here. It's all going to be incumbent on executing it and getting the creative right. And that's technically true all the time, but especially now, given how much talent has been siphoned off of NXT in this go-around. People
But
leave every year.
That has nothing to do with the show, though. I mean, NXT itself is still a weekly show. And again, I'm not familiar with the roster like you are, but if you're telling me the roster is pretty barren right now,
The men's side.
they don't have to fix it for the show. They have to fix it for the weekly show. That's the job of NXT.
No, exactly. And that's the problem with NXT right now is like the women are still so strong. There's so much talent there. The men's side is, I mean, it flatlined and they're trying to give it life right now. They're shocking it back into beating. So yes, I wonder how far off this is. Is it going to be December? Is it the same like part of the calendar year? If so, they have 7 months to get there on the men's side, right? And maybe it'll be perfectly fine. Or maybe it's a show that has 2 women's matches and 2 men's matches, right? Where they do a multi-person match or a battle royal and you see a lot of talent in there. There's a lot of ways this can go, but I just wanted to kind of clarify. The concept is sound. The championship is an issue for both of us, the terminology. But what I'm adding to make clear is it's all going to be about executing this in a way that NXT looks good. And if that person is crowned and they are not a winner of a match, that it really makes sense. They take Cody Rhodes all the way to the limit and it is a shock. Or Io's the champion, or Rhea Ripley's the champion. Rhea Ripley and Zarya takes her all the way, and Rhea barely gets past her. I forgot to mention Zarya
you keep it thinking like NXT people never get put over. Kevin Owens debuted as the NXT champion to beat John Cena. Like this has historically happened.
He did. That was a long time ago, but he did. That's true.
There was that period when with the Survivor Series and stuff. I don't remember who won that, but
we are far away from that though. Everything you're saying is correct. That dude, when they integrated NXT into that Survivor Series with SmackDown and Raw, that was phenomenal. Okay, but those were rare flashes.
Yeah, but again, Sol Ruka just won and Cody didn't beat Oba. Like I think that's far less of an issue.
And Oba beat Brock Lesnar too.
And the good thing about
Oba beat Brock Lesnar and Trick Williams just won the US title, both a couple months after getting called up.
I would just say in the history of NXT, they always figure it out.
That's true.
Like they always have these ups and downs. They're always losing their top people to the thing. Now this is a lot at once, obviously.
Yeah.
But I believe in the track record of NXT to when this happens, I'm going to assume sometime in the fall that it's in a much better position.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not sure anyone believes in NXT more than I do. So you're almost talking me off a ledge that you don't need to.
You're coming across as so strangely negative when I know.
But I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just putting it in context of like, this can work. It's what we want. But the way the roster is right now, I'm hesitant that this was the right. If they did this 2 years ago, I would say brilliant, no notes other than the championship. Doing it in 2026, the way the roster is, it gives me some hesitancy. But again, maybe they have some signings that are coming in. Maybe some of these guys will just develop so quickly and it'll be great. And I hope it is because it has the opportunity and potential to be great. We have 2 more matches to cover here and we went way long on that. So let's get to them right now. And one of them has a ton of go home from SmackDown. They both do, but one of them has a ton. And that is the United States Championship, Trick Williams defending against Sami Zayn. Gingerbread Man's funeral occurred on SmackDown. Everyone was wearing black, looking somber across a few backstage segments. Sami Zayn, of course, was the exception. He was wearing a bronze shirt that basically matched his beard, making him look even more like a ginger. He was complaining to Nick Aldis that the whole practice is ridiculous. R-Truth came in saying he saw the familial resemblance between Sami and Gingy, affectionately touching him to like help him through the tough time. Zayn had to grin and bear it. It was kind of insane that a murderer, by the way, was allowed to attend the funeral of his victim, but I digress. Footage was later shown of Gingy involved in a ton of WWE historic moments. Some of them were legitimately funny. Back at the ceremony, Zayn complained to a catatonic Johnny Gargano about his lot in life. Sami asked if Johnny Wrestling was still in there, calling Candice LeRae over because Johnny reacted to the mention of that nickname. Zayn lost his mind that Rey Fenix was involved, and he wondered who all the random extras were back there. Same thing. That's because the roster has been cleaned out. The actual funeral main evented in the ring, open casket, choir, and all. It was a somber scene, but Trick Williams nevertheless made his full, flashy entrance despite being grief-stricken in all black, jacket included. He hysterically poured out some milk instead of liquor or beer out of his pimp cup. That popped me. Williams delivered a soulful eulogy poem. Full smile on my face, ear to ear, baby. An AI video package of still shots followed. It showed Gingy growing up, competing for the South Carolina Gamecocks, and chilling with Trick and Lil Yachty, including at a strip club, climbing a mountain, and riding a roller coaster. It received a cheers and a chant from the crowd, multiple cheers, and a chant from the crowd. When Trick asked for a moment of silence, Sammy obviously interrupted, losing his mind, calling it ridiculous. Zayn was offended this took so much TV time, including the main event, saying Williams was tarnishing the U.S. title. He insulted the choir as being off-key and started counting Trick's money for him, how much he spent on the funeral to make a joke out of him. This was a long rant from Sammy, who reminded that he's gone up against the best in WWE, and while he hates to admit it, Trick actually got under his skin and made it personal. So he promised to make a joke out of Williams, humble him, embarrass him, expose him, and disrespect him. Then Sammy blindsided Trick and rubbed the title in his face, only for Gingy, with X's over his eyes in the casket, by the way, to rise up like the Underbaker. It was Yachty delivering candy cane kendo stick shots to Sammy's back before Trick shot ended the go-home show. This was outstanding. All parts of it, including multiple chuckles and a couple laugh out loud moments for me. The face heel alignment fully flipped by the end. This was not serious enough at any juncture to get red hot heat on Zayn, but it was at least successful in that it placed him on the other side of tweener, where the role can now go stronger over the ensuing months. There was a Kevin Owens element to the way Sammy acted during all of these segments, similar to the way KO acted during Elias and Elijah, where he couldn't believe that what he was seeing and why others were playing along with something so inherently ridiculous. Involving Phoenix and Gargano, that was a nice touch, and Trick was simply superb in the main event. The soulful poetry, working with the choir, pouring out the milk, selling his despair, and then Yachty was the cherry gumdrop, on top. His facial expressions were top tier. I don't need sports entertainment all over TV constantly, but between this and Danhausen, it has been working to add short-term enjoyment to SmackDown, and it absolutely worked on Friday night.
This was great. It's what I said, I think, last week, which was like, this was very clearly not supposed to go this way, but it did because Trick Williams got Gingerbread Man over so much, and Sammy played with it very well that they were able to extend this in a way that nobody expected, probably make Trick a babyface in a way they didn't expect, and make Sammy a bigger heel in a way they didn't expect. So there was nonstop gingerbread AI pictures on my Twitter feed, like leading into and coming out of this stuff, not related to wrestling and all types of stuff. And I think that's a huge success for WWE, where you find something, you just create a meme and it kind of gets out of your bubble a little bit in a way. And everything that happened within it was very funny. Lil Yachty being Gingerbread Man, we're not supposed to understand this, but I don't know if that means Gingerbread Man is actually alive then or not, or was he always Lil Yachty? Is he not? It doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. I'm guessing this is the end of it here, though, because there's no way to possibly explain that.
It was all about killing the concept, and then he used the concept against him. That's what it was.
Yeah. So overall, good job involved by everybody involved. And for the people who were complaining about it or thinking it's dumb or that it's the main event of SmackDown, I would just say it's the go home segment for a pay-per-view match that's going on the next day. Like, it was relevant to Backlash, and SmackDown's a 3-hour show right now. So you got to fill some time.
And neither of the champions on SmackDown, neither of the WWE champions had a match on the show. If they did, I would have been angry that this main evented over them, but it didn't. This was the biggest SmackDown match, I think. Yeah, this was the biggest SmackDown match on the card.
SmackDown versus SmackDown, yes, because Jacob Roman is Raw SmackDown.
Right, but I'm saying in terms of something that was built entirely on SmackDown, this was the biggest match on the card, and it main evented the go-home show. Like, that's fine. And also the AI usage, number one. The stand-up graphics look to be all AI, and yes, we don't want that. We want graphic designers to be employed and all that. I'm not entirely sure that the Gingerbread Man insertions into the WWE clips were AI. That could have just been Photoshop, CGI, whatever you want to call it. The full-on, Gingerbread Man being born and some of those things, those were definitely AI. But
it is, but it's kind of like the the El Grande Americano thing, where
why would you say Chad Gable? That doesn't even make sense. It's El Grande Americano. The guy's been wrestling for 70 years out of Mexico. How could you make that mistake?
I corrected myself. But it's it's supposed to be stupid. That's kind of the idea too.
Yeah, and it's almost supposed to be the El Grande Americano deal was that El Grande Americano created it.
Yeah.
And he's not a graphic designer. Similarly here, possibly, Trick and Yachty created this, and same thing with them. But I do want to just caution everyone. Look, AI is taking over a lot of shit. We've criticized it on the show. We don't need to get into a whole conversation about it. But not everything that's graphically altered is AI. People still use Photoshop. They still use CGI for a lot of stuff. Don't just assume because you see something, or maybe you don't like something, don't just assume that it's AI. Generally, you can tell, but not always, and that's part of the problem of AI in 2026.
Yeah.
Anyway, this match was second on the card, and the final match on ESPN2. Yachty was out with Trick, and everyone was heated at the bell, with Zayn getting Sammy sucks chance. Sammy and Trick alternated the advantage until Williams landed a huge bookend. Zayn escaped an avalanche attempt with a sunset flip powerbomb. Each avoided the other's finisher until Sammy landed Blue Thunderbomb for a false finish. He sold the knee after avoiding a charge with a blind leapfrog, baiting Williams into a small package and drilling him with the candy cane kendo stick. As Yachty argued with the referee, another false finish there. Sammy continued pouring it on as the referee checked on Trick. Yachty drilled Zayn with the kendo stick, and Sammy kicked out of Trouble in Paradise at 2.9. Zayn attacked Yachty ringside, taking out his anger on him with the kendo stick, drilling Williams into the steel steps with a DDT. Sammy then distracted himself with Yachty, choosing to mark him with a haluva kick to the back of the head rather than take advantage of Trick in the ring after the DDT. When he got back in the ring, Sammy's haluva kick found the turnbuckles, and Trick shot was landed as Zayn bounced out of the corner, with Trick retaining the title. Undoubtedly better than their WrestleMania match, but a large part of this being storytelling of Zayn's character prevented it from being balls to the wall action. The 13 minutes were well spent. As I've said for a long time, Trick is limited as a bell-to-bell wrestler, and Sammy could only drag him so far. Zayn was excellent developing what he needed to achieve, especially costing himself the match and title by allowing himself to be distracted for no reason whatsoever. And Williams came across not only as an anti-hero, but an actual face, as he's more dynamic and charismatic and not as lame as Zayn by comparison. The real shout out here, though, believe it or not, it's for Yachty, who is operating perfectly as a celebrity. There is no discernible difference between him and someone who would be a heel manager. He's taking significant moves, weapon shots, and he's entertaining. The crowd even chanted for Yachty at one point. And on the post show, they chanted for him loudly. And he actually turned to them and says, "You guys don't even understand. I am literally one of you. I am just a fan here. I'm living this dream, and I'm so excited for it." It was awesome to see him with a smile on his face. This was not a great wrestling match, but it was a great sports entertainment segment for sure. The finish was well executed, and it was nice back and forth, even if Trick Shot itself as a finisher sucks a big one. I don't understand why they have not fixed this before he went to the main roster. 3.5 stars B. Thoroughly enjoyed this.
Good match. Enjoyed it. Also, we got a match vignette, like the story of the match. I was able to see it on Netflix as I was using the NordVPN. I don't know if it was on the ESPN app. It was not on ESPN2. They were in a commercial break.
It was not on my Netflix replay, so maybe it was cut off from whatever when I watched it.
Interesting. Okay. But it was nice to see that after we didn't get so many of them, at WrestleMania too. So, but match was good, kind of what you expected, as much as you can get out of that. Lil Yachty's been great. Like we said, I think I said after Mania, I figured like that's the end of it because he's, an active musician with a lot going on. And I didn't think he'd be just making the towns every week with
every week.
And yet he's still doing it. So it's working. But good stuff overall, kind of what you expected.
We had Danhausen and a mystery partner against The Miz and Kit Wilson on SmackDown. Danhausen had a sign-up list to find a partner. Miz made fun of him for being friendless, while Kit called him toxic and looked at himself in a mirror. Wilson ultimately gave Danhausen an idea, saying the only person toxic enough to team with him is Danhausen. The categories on the sheet, by the way, were quite funny. It was name, social security number, and net worth. Danhausen was later shown stealing a hair from Brie Bella's head. Then he was working in a lab that contained a bunch of beakers and liquids and a microwave. He was working on a cloning machine that broke halfway through his test. I dropped this in our Slack channel to make my prediction known. I assumed Braun Strowman in face paint would be the perfect person to emerge from this in a Frankenstein-like way, just considering it was going to be a short match and he wouldn't need to work that much. A couple fun segments with Danhausen on SmackDown. definitely on the positive side this week. The lab part was particularly good for me.
It was, yeah, it was very funny, and he literally cursed, and yeah, like that bit was what it was. It seemed, we'll talk about the partner in a minute, but it seemed like a late pivot to just clone. And I was like, wait, that's weird, because we had built up the mystery of who the partner was going to be, and that's what we talked about it on the Ultimate Preview. But by the time SmackDown came around, it seemed like it was not going to be a mystery partner. Like, technically, it wasn't going to be an active current WWE wrestler.
Yeah, right. It wasn't going to be an active wrestler who was just themselves. I disagree, though, that it seemed like a pivot or a late pivot. That was way too involved to be something they threw together. And we'll talk about.
No, I'm not whether or not it was. I'm just saying, like, we didn't talk about that on the Ultimate Preview because it was not part of the discussion.
Oh yeah, I mean, we had no idea. We didn't. This was all the go home stuff. This wasn't part of the build.
It's weird. It's weird to add that in on the night before the show.
Right.
That's all.
Now, look, we did not get video packages at WrestleMania, but we got an entire cinema style recap of this feud leading into the match. That I did see on Netflix. Again, I don't know if it was on ESPN.
Me too. Yep.
The cloning machine opened to reveal a mini-me, which was such, and just stay with me. Just stay with me for the rest. In the moment, it was such a massive disappointment that it didn't get any discernible reaction, even though fans were fully attentive to what was happening. It was like a wet fart of a mystery partner. Minihausen unsurprisingly dominated at the start. He was clearly a luchador. Miz ran Danhausen into the post, hit a press power slam on Mini to turn the tables, got a ton of heat for it. Mini came back with a top rope moonsault onto Kit before a hot tag, leading to arguably the best wrestling sequence of Danhausen's televised career. Mini blind tagged with a hurricanrana that flipped Kit through the ropes, followed by a tope suicida. Wilson suckered Mini back into the cloning machine up the ramp, throwing him inside, slamming the door shut. Instead, it restarted, and when the door fell down, in my head, I'm like, oh, now we're going to get Braun Strowman. Instead, it was a half dozen clones of Mini, so there were 7 of them running around. Mini then caught Kit back in the ring with an airplane spin wasteland, Wade Barrett's finisher. He absolutely lost his mind on commentary. I think angry, but joke serious over like him using his move. Mini tried to curse Kit, but he used the mirror to reverse the curse, and Miz picked Mini up for a skull-crushing finale, his legs dangling in the air, and so he couldn't even lock the leg like he normally would. That was a broken fall. Miz tried to curse the Minis, but the fire extinguisher he was going to use, it backfired, of course, on him and Wilson. Mini then splashed Kit ringside as Danhausen caught Miz with a boot to the face, which is very funny, by the way, as a finisher, for the win. I stand by my take that Minihausen was disappointing as a mystery partner reveal. But there is no part of me that can do anything other than admit that this was flippin' fun. I did hope that the cloning machine, like I said, would lead to a Monsterhausen, basically flipping the concept on its head. Mini goes in, a monster comes out. Miz and Wilson are like, oh my God, what did we do? And that's how the match finishes. But this was just one of those matches and segments where I found myself smiling throughout from start to finish with a couple laughs even sprinkled in. The call of Wasteland, excuse me, and Wade's reaction to it was the highlight. But Miz hitting skull-crushing finale on someone 3'9" or whatever was effing hysterical. The accidental cloning and the mirror spot reversing the curse were brilliant. And while Minihausen wasn't what I hoped, the guy was easily the best worker in the match. Oh, and Danhausen needing to hulk up because he ran out of breath after wrestling for 30 seconds was great comedy. A match like this not only needs to be funny, it needs to be well-produced and logical. And in this Danhausen universe, it hit every single metric you could want. It's 2.5 stars C as a match, 5 teeth as entertainment, probably 2 to 3 minutes longer than it needed to be. And most frustratingly, this was longer than 2/3 of the WrestleMania matches. Different situationally, but still, that's ridiculous.
Correct. Yep. It was longer than 8 of the 13, 11 minutes, 38 seconds, which ends up actually being the shortest match on this show. So
that's funny. I randomly said 2/3 and that's what it was. That's funny. Okay.
Yeah. It was fine to me. It was just incredibly not creative because you go from mystery partner to we're just going to redo what we did at WrestleMania. And why does he need a cloning machine? Why are there multiple? We already had the multiple Danhausens. They already exist. What is the kayfabe explanation for the cloning machine? Okay. Are there now like 10 mini Danhausens out there? I don't know. I'm mostly just kind of being facetious. Apparently the Minihausen, this is what people were saying online. I don't know if this is true, but it was the guy who used to play El Torito back in the day. If so, would make a lot of sense because he was very entertaining and very good and can go. But it was weird, like that the Minihausen like was like the bulk of the match at the beginning to give the hot tag to Danhausen.
Well, dude,
I feel like
he was the best wrestler in the match.
He was.
I mean, so that's not surprising. He should be,
but it was like he shouldn't be, being competitive with the people he's having in the match. I don't. Yeah. It did feel like, to your point, where it didn't get a reaction at first when he came out. Mm-hmm. I thought I heard like some light boos at the beginning, but I have to admit, like by the end and as it played out, the crowd was totally into it. And I know a bunch of people who were like, "Yeah, my kids loved it," and that whole thing. So I can't deny that I think it ultimately accomplished what they want to do.
Yeah.
I just ended up being disappointed because we just kind of redid the WrestleMania segment after the fun of the mystery of who his partner was going to be. And then like, I was thinking too, when he went back in, we're going to get a big one or something else. And then it was just, nope, we're literally just doing WrestleMania over. That was the thing that was kind of just disappointing.
Okay. Let me give some points of order here. Number one, it was El Torito and his name's Mascarita Sagrada. So that's the guy we have seen before in WWE. Also, you have any idea how old he is?
44?
44 years old. Yeah. He's exactly 44 years old.
Just like us.
And he moves like that. Okay. So that's just impressive on its own.
Yes, totally.
I did not consider the point that you just made, and I agree with it completely. The mini Danhausens already existed. So why did he need to use a cloning machine to get them? Yes. Why couldn't he have just called on them? Why make it a mystery partner? Like that, I get. However, I don't believe in the WrestleMania segment there was a singular, let's call him prime mini Danhausen. In this case, there was a prime mini Danhausen. And then when he cloned into the rest that we had seen before, I guess, is maybe the way that you could think it through. But I agree with you. But I agree with you. While that lacked logic, though, okay, you said the whole thing wasn't creative. I completely disagree with that. The cloning machine concept was creative. The mirror was creative. And there were multiple parts of this match where it was pure creativity. So I agree when it comes to like the concept of them being the mystery partner and then how it related to WrestleMania.
Yes, that's all.
But the match was creative. The segment was creative.
Within what they had, they were creative. I'm just saying the idea of mini Danhausens being the partner was not creative.
Yeah. By the way, there were multiple bullshit reports, okay, around this show. One of them, there was a greater than 50% chance. Most people believed that Kairi Sane would be there for the Asuka Io match. Obviously didn't happen, and that was not true. The second one being that John Cena's announcement was Club WWE focused, and that's what everyone backstage was talking about. Clearly bullshit. The third was that Jelly Roll was going to be the mystery partner. Dude, Jelly Roll looked mighty slim and short in this match. Y'all need to do me a favor and stop listening to these bullshit artists out there, especially one in particular who reported, I want to say all three. I'm just trying to think really quick. I believe they reported all three of these things incorrectly. Observe this.
I see them on Twitter, but they're often not credited, so I don't know who does and doesn't report.
I don't say the name on here. It's not the person whose name I normally don't say. It's his partner. Never gets anything right, and it's always a report where WWE is painted in a negative light. Like Jelly Roll is going to be the mystery partner. That is inherently negative, and it was nowhere close to reality. So you're priming people to be upset about something that they have no reason to be upset about. I'll get off of it. I just wanted to say that. Also on this show, WWE did announce not the first ever two-night AAA Triple Mania, but I believe it's the first ever across like a period of time. The first one is going to be Friday, September 11th. The second show is going to be Sunday, September 13th in Mexico. They did not announce the location for the first one. Makes me believe there's a chance it's Texas or maybe just a different city in Mexico.
Go back to Vegas, baby.
Interesting that there's a night in between, though, okay? It first made me believe that WWE might do a Saturday night's main event there, except they are doing a main roster show on September 12th in Santiago, Chile. Now, that got sold out in 15 minutes, apparently. Stephanie Vaquero was promoting it. Maybe they're going to turn that into a Saturday night's main event. The crowd in Chile is said to be on par with Lyon, France, with many of these other European destinations that WWE has gone. Fans in Chile, wrestling fans, are rabid. So if WWE turns that into more than just a house show, that could be interesting. It may just be a day off of television due to college football, but there's going to be these shows September 11th through 13th in Mexico and South America. And it's going to be real interesting to see how that transpires a few months from now. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
Yeah. I just assume there's days off between the two AAA shows because they're probably going to have to travel between countries.
That too. They probably need time to set up.
They just need the time to travel and all that.
But if they can fill that with a main roster show or something, I mean, all the better, right? You have 3 days in a row of great wrestling potentially, so that'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right, that wraps up our full breakdown of WWE Backlash, which means it is time for us to discuss our grades. Now, on the pre-show, Vintage and the Silver King, we gave it identical 88 B pluses for our expectation. In terms of all of our getting overheads, our listeners who have the opportunity to vote online, something has happened with Twitter where these polls are either not getting out or people are not participating in them like they used to. I mean, the vote total was so low for the pre-show, and the post-show was way lower than it used to be, but it was so low for the pre-show, I'm not even going to do the calculations. It was not representative. It was statistically insignificant. So the pre-show grade for this from Vintage and the Silver King is an 88 B+. Vintage, let's get into our final grades. Before we do, there were 2 notes I just wanted to share. If WWE is going to air the first hour of PLEs on ESPN or ESPN2, that's totally fine with me. The shows need to be at least 3.5 hours, if not 4, if they are going to do this. Even if the first hour is still technically the main PLE, when you're making a switch like that, it doesn't feel as if that's the case. You still want to feel like you're getting premium content on the back end. Now, this show had 6 full segments, so it's not impossible that WWE might be shifting to 6-segment or 6-match cards. We'll have to see what happens in Italy, whether they do it again. But when you go to your main card and 2 of the 4 segments are John Cena standing in the ring speaking, and then the Danhausen comedy match, which again was fun, no complaints about it. When that's half of your premium, quote unquote, portion of your card, it would have been really nice to have one more legitimate match. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. What are your thoughts?
I sort of agree, but like we've been so used to getting like 4-match cards sometimes.
4 is usually only the Royal Rumble and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's been 5.
But like to get 5 matches and a notable announcement from John Cena, they fit it, and all the matches got time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the shortest thing was 11 something. It ended quickly, but it is weird when the PLEs, the pay-per-views, are shorter than SmackDown.
Right.
But they did fit a lot into it, I will say. It didn't feel like there was a lot of downtime, a lot of wasting time.
Nothing got short.
Sometimes, whether it's a 4-match card and like 2 goofy segments or whatever in the ring, announcing the crowds and all this stuff, like they made the most of their time. I think the weirder part was probably because it was on ESPN, is the show starting so early. Like it was 5:00 my time to start that show, and it's over by 7:30.
The reason it started at 6 instead of 7 was twofold. One was, yes, the first hour on ESPN. The second is UFC had a big event, 328, and they wanted to end it before that became pay-per-view exclusive. So this was over 30 minutes before 9 o'clock or something like that, maybe 20 minutes before 9 o'clock, and that became pay-per-view exclusive at 9 o'clock. So that's why
it's just when it's fully bright out still and the show's over.
Yeah,
it
weird.
It feels maybe even shorter than it was. But yes, I came away basically thinking I'm surprised Jacob Roman didn't go another like 5 minutes.
Right.
If you had thrown maybe 2 more minutes onto Kyrie, Asuka. But I didn't come out of it thinking like I need another match, because they did give us a good.
Yeah, no, because there were 6 full segments, it felt significant, but because there was that extra time on the end, like my belief, this is how I feel. If you want to do an hour,
the worst part was like the 7 or 8 minute commercial break between the end of the ESPN hour and starting the real show. That was the only part I was like, oh my God, this is taking forever.
Yeah, I can't even speak to that because I watched the replay. So I take your word, obviously, on it. My thought process is once it goes exclusive to the ESPN app, the show should be 3 hours. So if you want to do an hour on ESPN, cool. But then it should be 3 on the back end, or 2.5 at least on the back end. Instead, it was 2. I mean, a little bit less than 2, I think.
Less than 2, yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. When it's less than 2 and that's your premium component, that to me feels like you're getting shortchanged, even though, to your point, they really did not shortchange anything based on the card they presented. This was much improved compared to WrestleMania from a match time standpoint. This is the other point I wanted to make. Almost entirely due to reduced advertising and sponsorship. The shortest match was 12 minutes. Io Asuka got the second most time on the card, only behind Rollins Breakker. I was surprised, as you were, that Reigns Fatu was the middle of the pack from a length standpoint. That's almost certainly because it was the first of 2 or 3 meetings, and also they were beating the shit out of each other in that match. There was more wrestling on this show, on Backlash, than either night of WrestleMania, despite those having 2 and 1 more match, respectively. This average time for Backlash, 16.5 minutes per match. That is how WWE should be operating on every show. Instead, night 1 of WrestleMania averaged 12 minutes. Night 2 averaged 13.5. So again, Backlash, 16.5. That's nearly 5 more minutes per match than night 1. 3 more minutes per match than night 2. Both WrestleMania nights would have been better, even if it was an average of 16. We're talking about 20 more minutes of wrestling to disperse across each night of WrestleMania. That should not be hard to bake into your show when you have 7 matches or even 6 matches in which to break it apart. So, WWE said they heard some complaints from WrestleMania. They're listening to some, not listening to others. The one that they need to listen to most, it is the sponsorship and advertising. It annoys all of us. This is what sports and entertainment is all about these days, not just wrestling. It's the NFL, it's the NBA, it's soccer, it's everywhere. You can't avoid it. What they can do is deliver on the first half of that event's name, which is wrestle. They have wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let them frickin' wrestle.
We're wrestlers in a wrestling ring. Let's just freaking wrestle.
And that is how they can improve WrestleMania immediately for 43, and hopefully how they can ensure that SummerSlam doesn't go the way of WrestleMania in a couple of months.
Totally agree.
All right, Vintage. I thought you had more there, but that's totally fine. What is your final grade for WWE Backlash?
I'm going to go A-. I came in thinking a B+. It gave me a bit more than I expected. I'll go with the 91. This is about, for a show that didn't have a title change, this is about as good as you could possibly do, I think, on a show like this. So I'm going to go with a 91 A-.
I'm right there with you. It definitely exceeded expectations, which is primarily what we are saying here. I believe 91 is a little bit low, though. Like, I'm thinking about the show. Reigns Fatu was great. We both loved the finish. Io Asuka was obviously great. Rollins and Breakker completely delivered what it needed to. And a little annoyed by the distraction finish, but it was totally expected. I would say the Danhausen match exceeded expectations. Trick and Sammy was a little bit lower than I thought it could be. But again, it accomplished its job. And John Cena's announcement was way better than I expected, even though that isn't really something that I'm going to factor into the grade. But I am way higher than the 88. What I'm trying to decide right now live as we do this is whether I want to go into the A range, because again, there were 2 great matches on that show. Oh man. And then Breakker and Rollins was good and it was entertaining. Yeah, screw it. This is one of the bigger jumps that I think I've ever had from a pre-show to a final grade. I'm going 93, the lowest A possible. It couldn't get more than that, to your point. No title changes. The matches still could have been a little bit longer, but I watched that entire show and I sat there thinking, this is way better than I expected. And I was watching it starting at like 11:30 at night. So I was finishing around 2:30 in the morning. And I was happy to still be watching the show. If I was in any other mindset, I probably would have been much lower than that grade. So that is where you and I stand, Vintage, in terms of our listeners are getting overheads. Again, not really a representative sample on social media. We're going to have to legitimately consider whether we are going to continue doing these polls there. Speaking of putting them, for WWE, it might be behind a paywall with Club WWE. We might need to start doing our polls on our Slack channel, because the Hey Now Championship,
which has no paywall, by the way,
has no paywall. It is completely free. But our Hey Now Championship poll basically got as many votes as the Backlash final grade. And if that's going to be the case, we just may need to convince all of you to join the Slack channel, which is a lot more fun, and it's a better way to converse with us anyway. So the way the totals came in on the poll, the people who did vote, 12% A plus to A, 42.4% A minus to B plus, 42.4% B to B minus, 3% C plus or lower, which I find to be incredibly ridiculous. That averages out to a 90.779, rounds up to a 91 A minus. So in a surprise vintage, wait, were you 91?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, so exactly the same grade as you, a little bit below the Silver King. I was going to say it was below both of us, but no, it was right where you are. And I believe a completely legitimate grade. This was a show that exceeded expectations. It was better than night 1 of WrestleMania. I forgot what we graded night 2. I would say this was close to that. But, for a B show, some would even call Backlash a C-level show. It was, again, another step in the right direction for that branded event. Like, Backlash just seemed to regularly deliver. Not every year, but many years.
It felt like this one especially was a make good for all the complaints people had about WrestleMania. It was, we're going long on the wrestling matches. We're going like hardcore intense on the matches too. Like we're not going slow on them. We're not going to bombard you with a bunch of different promotional this or that. Like there were the commercial breaks some of them were annoying.
I believe though, the sponsorship stuff, they just didn't sell them. I mean, that's what it was. They only had one ad on the entire ring. They had the WWE logo in the middle. There was nothing on the turnbuckles. They just had the Saudi ad in each corner. That was it.
Just a Saudi ad. Yeah. So I don't know if that is by design or if it's just simply they couldn't sell it. It's most likely it's the latter. Mm-hmm. But coming out of a WrestleMania that felt like it was over commercialized with very little wrestling, they gave us a show that was not very commercialized with a lot of wrestling. And just want that to be noted as being appreciated, that we know they can do stuff like this still.
For sure. I had 2 other quick notes before we get out of the show. Not having video packages for me remains ridiculous. I know they are aired in full on the Countdown show. WWE, they may want to throw like a QR code on the screen, or at least reference during the PLE what is contained on the Countdown show so people know to watch it in the future. I had to miss it for Backlash, so I didn't get to see any of the packages. At an absolute minimum, though, Vintage, they got to do a video package before every main event. Full stop.
Well, you did see the Danhausen Miz one.
Yeah,
because you mentioned that. And I saw the Trick Sammy one, which you didn't. So, again, I don't know if that was on the ESPN.
But come on, if they're not having them for Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker and Io Sky and Asuka and Roman Reigns and Jacob Fatu, those are the 3 biggest matches. I mean,
correct. You should have had one for the main event. I'm trying to remember if there was or wasn't. I should have looked closer, but yes, I do think we still need more of those and need them on the main show, not just. I know it's even back on Peacock. Like if you didn't have the premium, you couldn't see it, but still, yes, you would really much like to have these to let people know what you're watching. They should show this on the ESPN2 version of the show too, because especially those are the people who are not familiar.
And they should not only just show the 2 matches or the packages for the matches, they should show the video package for the main event to convince people to subscribe and go over there. I don't understand why they're not doing that. One other note, and this is on the post show, these have actually become quite entertaining. Big E, Corey Graves, and Jackie Redmond, they play incredibly well off one another. The superstars are so much more casual and interesting. They're able to speak in a relaxed setting in front of a bunch of rabid fans. They're not scripted. Paul Levesque deserved full criticism for the post-show press conferences devolving into shams. But the fact of the matter is, these new shows, from an entertainment value standpoint, are far better to watch. It would be nice if Levesque held like an off-camera scrum with media in attendance or something, and they got the best of both worlds. But in terms of like being entertained and wanting to watch something after the event goes off the air, these post shows are better as far as I'm concerned.
That reminds me, they did throw to Jackie, Biggie, and Corey, I think after the Cena segment before the main event.
Yes.
And you couldn't hear a word they said.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. I remember that.
That was a bizarre production error that like went on for a shockingly awkward amount of time.
Yeah, usually, we can't hear them, we'll come back to them. But they just let it go. It was very strange. But do you agree with my general take about the post shows or no?
Yes, I didn't watch this post show, but I did watch the Mania ones, and I did feel that. Like, if you're going to do them, if you're not going to take real questions, like, make it kind of part of the show.
Yeah.
And they have been. And they get good crowds outside of it. Like, it's very much a thing. All right, the show's over. But maybe instead of going right back to our car, you hang around there for a little bit more. Like, I think that's a fan-friendly way of doing it.
Especially when the show ends, or, it's not ending at 11 or midnight or something like that. Like, you have the time to do that. I will point out this post show in particular. Maybe it's just this one that led me to say it. But Trick Williams and Lil Yachty were great. Danhausen was on there with all the minis. He was hysterical. And Seth Rollins came out and he added a lot of like base level stuff to his character that might wind up playing into what he's going to do on Monday Night Raw going forward. So I do really suggest watching this post show if you missed it. But in general, they have been relatively entertaining. All right, let's get out of this instant analysis one. A little bit longer than Vintage and the Silver King expected, but that is pretty much always the case here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We love to gab and go back and forth. Now, just because this instant analysis is over, I didn't call it instant analysis the whole show because it wasn't instant. Just because this Backlash analysis is over does not mean we are entirely done talking about this premium live event. We will be back on Tuesday with our normal weekly WWE episode. We will also do a quick WWE Backlash second look at the beginning of the episode. I might adjust some match grades, but really, we look at questions and comments that all of you sent us during the show that we did not address today, and we try to integrate them and go through all of that before we break down everything that happens across Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. So make sure to join us on Tuesday for the WWE episode. We will be back on Thursday talking NXT and AEW. There was also a AAA show on Saturday night after Backlash went off the air. So Silver King will watch that and try to fit it into our breakdowns at some point this week. 2 more WWE shows, by the way, before the end of the month. Saturday night's main event, I believe it's on May 23rd. They haven't even promoted it. Nothing's been booked for it, so I have no idea about that. And then, of course, WWE Clash in Italy, which I believe is May 31st on a Sunday. And they, of course, will be building to that starting on Monday night. So a lot happening coming up real soon. Make sure you subscribe to the Getting Over Wrestling podcast in order to hear it. On the way out of today's show, allow the Silver King to remind you that this program
is all about the fire.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. Send in questions and comments for the show. Do it right now. Everything is still open. We will try to include them on Tuesday's episode. On YouTube, you can listen to the show. You can also watch full-length video interviews, and the link in our social media profiles will get you access to our Slack channel, our WWE shop account, and every place that you can subscribe to the podcast across the board at Getting Overcast. And lastly, allow me to remind you,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Please sign up, support us. We deliver performance-enhancing audio to your ear holes. This helps us keep the lights on. Buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. On behalf of Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.